Okay. So how
Okay, we're getting started soon. Good. Okay, hello. Evelyn, Abs, Abby, welcome. We'll give people a few minutes to join in through the YouTube, also through the Zoom. Can everyone hear me okay? Is my audio all right? Oh. Hello, hello, microphone check. Okay, how about now? Can you hear me? Maybe having some technical difficulties here.
Hello,
Hello,
hello.
hello. Oh, okay, okay. I think you all can hear me now. Great. So welcome in Zen Vegan, Akil, Abs, Abby, Evelyn. We'll give a few minutes for people to join in through the YouTube and also the Zoom meeting. If any technical issues come up, just let me know. If my audio stops working or if video stops working, I'm just using two phones to do this, so sometimes it can be less than ideal. Okay, and Atlas, welcome in. Great to see you here, Atlas. Also have some people joining through the YouTube. That's wonderful. Welcome in, everybody. Okay, so we'll get started just about another 5 minutes. We can take that time to just get settled, finding our body and our mind, however it is at this moment, settling down. And our meditation today will be about 20 or 30 minutes. Jan, welcome. Okay, Evelyn, you can hear me now. Wonderful. Welcome into Katerina. Welcome. Katerina, glad to have you here. And also Umi joining us. Welcome, Umi. Okay, so today we'll get started with a brief introduction into meditation, and then we'll follow that with a bit of practice and then question and answer. So any questions that you may have about Buddhism or meditation after we do our meditation together, then we'll open up the floor for people to ask questions either through Zoom, using their voice, or through commenting on YouTube. Both will be okay. Okay, so welcome everyone. I am Bhante Varapañños. This is a community meditation event. We're hosting this through Zoom, so we have a number of people in the Zoom meeting and also broadcasting this live through YouTube. So glad that everyone was able to find the time to attend, to learn a little bit about meditation and to practice together. So just want to express my thanks at the beginning here. So as an introduction to meditation, we want to put aside all of our expectations, our ideas about having a special experience or becoming enlightened or transcending the physical plane. And really we want to ground ourselves and to turn our attention inward. Many of these ways of thinking of I'm going to become enlightened, I'm going to have this experience, they're very outwardly focused, very intellectual, very conceptual. When we practice meditation, the point, first and foremost, is to direct our attention towards our body, turning our attention inward towards our direct experience at this moment. So we can start to do that together by taking a few deep breaths in through our nose, breathing in deeply through the nose, and then making the lips pursed as if there is a straw in the lips. Breathing in through the nose, and then exhaling through the lips. Really exhaling all the oxygen that's in your body. Once again, breathing in through the nose and out through the mouth, through the lips. We can do this 2 or 3 times at our own pace. And as we do this practice, we're bringing our mind to the body and to the physical experience of the breath. Breathing in deeply through the nose, breathing out through the mouth. And after we've done that a few times, we can allow our breath to settle back into its natural rhythm. And so as we begin meditation, we can take a few deep breaths in this way. It's a very good way to start our meditation practice. Beginning to focus or emphasize the feeling of the breath. The breath is a very good tool or a very good experience to focus on because it's kind of bringing together the external and the internal. And it's something that's always happening. Very simple, very direct. We all understand that we're breathing. It's not confusing that we happen to be breathing. And so the meditative mind, the mind of a meditator, rather than taking this, oh, I'm breathing, as kind of secondary or irrelevant to our experience, we're emphasizing breathing. The breath is happening. And so moment to moment, even as you hear my voice, or as you're maybe hearing sounds around you, just hearing them, noticing them, and then coming back to the breath. Tuning into the fact that you're breathing, hopefully. I hope that everyone who's watching is breathing. And so in Buddhist meditation in general, rather than complicating, rather than adding onto our mind, our experience, our ideas, rather than adding, we're just tuning into the body and the breath at this moment. It takes a certain quality of mind to tune in repeatedly, to come back to this practice again and again. So in Buddhism, the first practice that Buddhist people establish themselves in is not necessarily meditation, but rather sila, or morality, ethical living, skillful living. So people who have maybe had a lot of difficult experiences in their lives, or are going through addiction, or going through certain kinds of complex suffering, meditation may not be the first step for them in practicing meditation. Surprisingly enough, the first step may be beginning to transition into more skillful living. Could be volunteering. It could be noticing or identifying unskillful behaviors, unskillful habits that you've kind of taken for granted as regular parts of your life. Identifying those unskillful behaviors and kind of stepping back from them a little bit. And as we begin to live more skillfully, not perfectly, not becoming a saint or a monk, but just bringing this extra attentiveness, this quality of interest in how we're living moment to moment. As we bring that mind and that approach to our lives over a period of time, we may notice that we're more able to relax, we're more able to calm down. And to practice meditation in this way, coming back to the breath, not coming back to the mind, not feeling a space and then, oh, I need to go to my mind, I need to think about this, but rather coming back to the breath. It takes a quality of mind of comfortableness, some semblance of balance. So if you find that meditation at the beginning, in the way that we're talking about it here, awareness of breathing, is maybe inaccessible, that may be a hint or a pointer to maybe look at some more guided meditations, maybe look at some ways of living, some habits that you have in your life, doing good deeds, intentionally doing good, intentionally bringing this quality of attentiveness to your life. And over time, you may find that you're more relaxed, your mind becomes a little bit more stable, and then meditation opens up to you as a possibility. Once again, taking 2 or 3 deep breaths at our own pace, in through the nose and out through the nose. Allowing our breath to go back to its natural rhythm. And now starting to notice the body, the posture of our body. How are we sitting? How is the body right now? So still with the breath, we're using the breath as this kind of anchor point, beginning to notice how the body is at this moment. Feeling the breath in the body. Noticing any feelings or tension or sensations that stick out in the body. Maybe you have a backache, or maybe one part of your body is vibrating. Maybe you're being bitten by a mosquito. Could be anything, but if something sticks out in terms of your bodily awareness, noticing that. Continuing to breathe. emphasizing just breathing and noticing having a body at this moment. We can close our eyes if we feel comfortable to do so as we breathe naturally, or rather be okay with how we are breathing. Doesn't matter how we're breathing, just being okay with it. And noticing the feeling of the body. We're not looking for anything in particular. We may feel empty, we may feel nothing, but this mind, this approach of curiosity, taking an interest in the body, however it is at this moment. And now bringing our attention to the stomach area. Seeing if we can feel the breath in the stomach area, the navel area. And any thoughts, any ideas, anything that's coming up in the mind right now, totally okay, totally natural. Just notice that. You can say hello to it, and then going back to breathing and seeing if we feel the breath. We're seeing what we feel in this stomach area, this navel area as we breathe. We're using the breath as an anchor point, as a balance point. So whenever we feel off balance, maybe distracted, maybe a little bit too tight or forced in our practice, we go back to the breath and we adjust very subtly, very gently, breathing in a way that calms us down and opens us up. And we're experimenting moment to moment, but not with the mind. We're not experimenting with ideas about our experience, or thoughts, or stories about ourselves. Rather being, experimenting with being and breathing. So if we feel tight, if we feel anxious, we experiment with breathing in a way that calms us down, opens us up, relaxes us. We may also find ourselves getting very sleepy or having a dull, kind of foggy experience. And when we become aware of that, once again, we return to our breath as this anchor point, this balance point. So we can breathe in a way that brightens us, that enlivens us, and brings us back to this balanced stability, this awareness, this attentiveness. As we breathe in this way, very natural, very sincerely, being aware of any aches and pains or feelings in the body. And rather than judging our experience or looking for a certain kind of experience, just breathe with whatever the experience is at this moment. If we feel comfortable to do so, as we breathe, we can bring a smile to our face. This realization or this feeling of finding peace within our own bodies and our own breath. Safety, warmth. And when we get distracted, when we notice that we've gotten caught up in thinking, we've gotten caught up in all kinds of ideas, sleepiness or anxiousness, that's a part of the practice. And when we notice that we've gotten off track, or just when we notice, returning back to the breath. So what is meditation? And how do we do it? Turning our mind inward. being with the breath, being with the body, noticing with a quality of attentiveness and curiosity how the mind and the body are moment to moment. Whenever we get distracted, whenever we get off balance, caught up in thinking, caught up in stress or sleepiness, bringing our attention back to the breath, back to the body, moment by moment. Just being human, just breathing. Okay, everyone. That was our introduction to meditation with a bit of practice thrown in. And for those who are new to meditation and considering to have their own personal, independent meditation practice in a similar way to what we practice here today, you may lay down or sit down, set a timer for as little as 5 minutes, and during that 5 minutes, just be with the breath, be with the body. After that timer goes off, if you're finished, wonderful. You can give yourself a pat on the back. And maybe when the timer goes off, you want to continue exploring being with the breath and the body. So you also have that opportunity. So for beginners, for people who are new to meditation, this 5-minute daily practice is an incredible entry point and a great way to get started in having your own independent meditation practice. So I hope that was of benefit to some people who were attending. And we'll now take a short break, just a few minutes. And when we come back, we will open up the space for questions and answers about meditation, Buddhism, or even sharing experience. So we'll take a short break, maybe do some stretching, and then we'll come back for the Q&A period. Thank you. Okay, can everyone still hear me? Okay, wonderful. I switched to Bluetooth so I can hear people speaking and also respond to them. All right, so we'll open it up now for any questions that people have. And I will do my best to answer. So one of the questions here from a user Abs here in the Zoom was asking about Buddhism. Is Buddhism a religion or a philosophy? So in the sense of the Buddha's teachings and the fundamental teachings and ideas of Buddhism, this is a philosophy. This is a way of life, a philosophy. But in terms of the religious institution, I'm a monk, so I'm a part of the religious institution of Buddhism. It's most certainly religious. But many of the religious ideas that we have in the West of what makes a religion, Buddhism does not really have. So we don't have a higher being. We don't worship someone or something that is the creator who has power over everything. These kinds of concepts, these ideas just don't exist in Buddhism. So it's much more like a philosophy when you look at the traditional teachings of the Buddha and also Buddhist practice. What it means to be a practicing Buddhist is not necessarily very religious. But some people practice Buddhism very religiously, and some people practice it as a way of life, a philosophy, in a secular manner. And I certainly count myself among those kinds of people that practice Buddhism secularly. Evelyn, if you would feel comfortable to unmute yourself in the Zoom call and ask your question, that would be great. But if not, I can read the question for you. Oh, don't have a mic. Okay, no problem, Evelyn. I'll read the question for you. So Evelyn asking, when I meditate nowadays, it feels more like a chore, something I have to mark as done for the day, rather than as a practice I genuinely and deeply want to do. What advice would you give for meditation not to feel like a chore? So I would recommend that the point of meditation is for it not to be a chore. It's really a time when we sit down, lay down, walk, and we're finding peace, we're finding happiness, we're finding our heart at that moment. So maybe taking a step back from how you're doing meditation and making it into a jog or a walk in an unexpected place. Or perhaps looking at some new kinds of teachings, new ideas as they relate to meditation. Sometimes our meditation does feel very dull. It feels like a chore. It feels like something, oh, I have to do this. But in the meditation, at that moment, that's your reminder. That's your touchstone or your anchor point to come back to the breath sincerely with the open heart, with this exploration, this curiosity of, how do I find peace with what's happening right now? So if we're just forcing ourselves to sit, that's not proper meditation. When we sit, we may feel like that sometimes. We may feel crunched up and tight.
But then we apply our sincerity and our heart to that moment, opening us up, unfolding us. We can take a deep breath into that feeling of rigidity, that feeling of, oh, I need to do this, and relax it. So maybe making that a focus or a point in your meditation when you feel that experience coming up of, oh, I need to do this, it's like a chore. Take it as an invitation to really explore that feeling. You know, what's that feeling in your body? What's the source of this feeling? You know, where is it coming from? What's it all about? But anything can be a meditation also, Evelyn. So bringing that meditative approach of being with the breath, being with the body, whatever it is, and bringing that to playing with children or taking a shower, whatever it is. You know, we can make meditation a part of our life to enrich those experiences, to savor those peaceful and enjoyable moments, those tiny, happy experiences, having a tea, having a sit, having a nice, cool environment. We can savor and extend with that meditative approach. Okay, hopefully that was helpful, Evelyn. If not, you can let me know and possibly clarify. I can try to answer in a better way. Okay, we have a question here in the YouTube from someone. Dear Bhante, I would like to know, how can I get started on letting go of the past and attachment to certain people? Lastly, if you can reference some suttas about letting go to read. Okay, this is a very good question. So what comes mostly at the forefront of my mind is patience. If we're really patient with something, when it comes up, when that memory comes up, that past experience or that past relationship that we had, if we're able to be patient with it, then we can experience it without feeding it. Sometimes we have these memories, these past relationships, this difficulty, and when those remembrances come up, we resist, you know, oh, I don't want this. And in that way, we feed it. We feed it with our attachment to, I don't want this. And sometimes we can also feed it with our attachment that, oh, I do want this. Rather, when those experiences, those remembering those people, those relationships, etc., when they come up, being patient with them. There's no experience that we can have that will define us, you know, our human life, our direct experience. It's undefinable. So when certain thoughts come up, you know, difficult thoughts, difficult ideas, difficult memories, when they come up, you can say hello to them, you know, you can be patient with them. They need your attention. That's why these things come up, because they need attention. They need to be embraced. So when those past sufferings come up, you can offer to them your attention, your patience, your caring, your sincerity. And over time, those things tend to come up less and less because you're not feeding them, you're not investing in them, you're not defining yourself by those experiences, those ideas. And you certainly don't need to. And a good way to get started is to try to stay grounded throughout your day. Try to stay present with the body. This is one of the really good uses for mala, for the beads that monks or different people use. You just rub those in between your fingers, doing that mala practice. They can keep you grounded in the body rather than, floating up to the past or floating into the future. You can just rub your fingers together or feel your feet as they make contact with the ground and really ground yourself in the present, right here. Oh, sure, all kinds of ideas, all kinds of past experiences, horrible things, etc. Memories, people we miss, people we want to be here. They come up, but we can come back to this moment that is unfolding before us, moment to moment, changing, fresh, new, not explainable, not really understandable with conceptual thought. So it's an invitation to come in to the present, to step into our lives, to take a deep breath and define ourselves. If we have to define ourselves by the unfolding of our lives, rather than the contraction, the tightness of our lives. So thank you for your question, someone. And referencing some suttas about letting go, nothing comes off the top of my head. I have a pretty bad memory. But if you reach out to me on the Discord, I'll try to put something together for you. Okay? Thank you so much for your question, someone, whoever you may be. Okay. Looks we have another question in the Zoom here from Gligor. Gligor, would you like to ask your question with your voice? If you feel comfortable to do so, if you want to unmute, up to you.
How harmful are cigarettes and sodas for meditation?
Okay, so in general, unhealthy things are not going to support meditation. So sugary drinks, very strong sugar can lead to diabetes, can lead to health issues. Cigarettes, of course, also can lead to health issues. So anything that's going to destabilize your body or cause health issues is likely to interfere with your meditation in one sense or another. And with sugar or sodas, it's not inherently bad to have sugar or to have caffeine. There's nothing inherently bad about that. But too much or a reliance to, an attachment to, oh, I need to have soda every day. Oh, I need to have cigarettes every day. That can become a real problem, not only in our meditative practice, but in our lives in general. So definitely being careful when it comes to sugar and nicotine. Very powerfully addictive substances. And a lot of people run into issues with those. Thank you for your question. Gligor. Abs asking, so is there no higher being in Buddhist philosophy? No, there's not. In the traditional Western sense that we think of Christianity, Islam, etc., no. There's not a higher being. There's not a creator. There's not a judger. We can't even say that there's sin or absolute morality by this absolute judge. We don't have a Bible. We don't have a one book that tells the true story of Buddhism and the moral laws of Buddhism. We don't have it. So it's a very unique religion in comparison to all other major religions in the world. A higher being is just not a part of Buddhist practice. There are archetypes. There are spiritual representations of wisdom, of compassion, of loving kindness, of hope, etc. in Buddhism. There's lots of those, but there's not a higher being. You know, the Buddha was a man, or who knows who the Buddha was, but the Buddha was a human being, we imagine. And the Buddha didn't become enlightened because of a divine being. The Buddha was not a prophet. The Buddha was not inspired by a god or a creator, anything. The Buddha was a human being who attained the cessation of suffering, the attainment of non-attainment. So it's a very human religion. There's nothing else involved, actually. And okay, I think we have another question from Zen Vegan, and we are having the Q&A here. So if anyone has questions, please ask, and I will do my best to answer them the way that I can. So Zen Vegan, which is great. Hats off to you, Zen Vegan. What do you think about reincarnation afterlife? Do you believe in nirvana as in it's the escape from rebirth? Or do you think of nirvana as just achieving inner peace? What's your views on it? I'm really new to Buddhism, so I'm wondering. Zen Vegan, do you have a microphone? Would love to hear you ask this question with your voice, if you're comfortable to do so.
So my question was, what do you think about reincarnation or the afterlife? Do you believe in nirvana as it's the escape from rebirth, or do you think of it as just achieving inner peace after a journey of meditation and discovery?
So in Buddhism, we have a fundamentally different understanding of birth and death. Totally fundamentally different from Western society. So in Western religion, in Western society, basically there's this idea of a character, an agent in a story. So you were born as a baby, then you become an old person and you die. Born and die. And in between is basically a movie. It's basically Captain America and the Avengers, or Toy Story, or Batman, whatever it may be. You are born from your mother and father, and then there's a movie, and then you die. So in Buddhism, we have a different understanding of the self, of the individual, of the agent in human experience. So rather than birth and death in these story-like terms, although we also have story-like terms, it's a moment-to-moment arising and falling away. Birth and death is happening moment-to-moment. We have this understanding in Buddhism that it's a much more subtle situation than we can normally understand conceptually about birth and death. So birth in Buddhism is something that comes way later in the process of rebirth. It's not simply this idea of you're born, you die, and then you go to this place or that place. That's not Buddhism. That has nothing to do with Buddhism, actually. Birth only happens from ignorance. And after ignorance, you have sense formations, mental formations, contact between your senses and the environment. Then you have birth. And then if you're born, you have old age, you have death, you have suffering. So Buddhism has extremely different understanding of birth and death in that sense. And so Nibbana or nirvana in this sense, is an escape or the ending, the stopping of the wheel of coming into being and going out of being, birth and death, kind of tumbling forth into all kinds of different experiences. And nirvana is the ending of rebirth, the ending of this process of birth and death, moment to moment. But it's well-being, it's total well-being, it's the cessation of suffering. It is peace. So Buddhism can be understood, rebirth, reincarnation in Buddhism can be understood as a primitive, you could say, psychological model, but also as a very fair representative of a philosophical system where a self-identity is not necessarily taken to be the case. So in Western philosophy, you have, I think, therefore I am. Well, in Buddhism, we say there is thinking. We continue. What's going on here? What's happening? So it's not, I think, therefore I am. We don't have that. We don't believe in that. Well, it's just not a part of Buddhist philosophy. I think, therefore I am. So, yeah, that would be my answer for you. Hopefully that has some degree of clarity to it. All right, and going back to the YouTube, Kid Laurie asking, do you believe there is an afterlife? I think I just answered that. But basically, our experience is always changing, all the time, very fundamentally, it's always changing. So sometimes we are in the animal realm, in that we are only operating out of our sensual desire, our hunger. We want to eat, we want to sleep, we want to have a sensual experiences, sexual experiences. So we're in the animal realm. Or maybe we are in the realm of a god, where we have so much authority, we have so much power, we have so much pleasure. And so in a Western sense, you'd say that there was this character that was moving through these realms, heaven to hell to all these places. But in Buddhism, with our different understanding of the self-identity, it's a lot more loose if that would be the same person, the same identity that's moving through this process. So in that sense, birth and death are happening moment by moment, constantly. Many, many times, constantly. And then we have here in the Zoom, Abs, asking, is suffering necessary for learning meaning of life? I think it's very helpful in a sense, but the first noble truth in Buddhism is that there is suffering. And we're not saying that suffering is bad. Suffering isn't bad. It's just suffering. It's uncomfortable. It's difficult. So there is suffering, is the first noble truth in Buddhism. But suffering isn't evil or bad. We're not trying to get rid of suffering. With suffering comes happiness. With suffering comes peace. No suffering, no peace. So suffering is a way where we can learn to embrace difficulty, and we can transform suffering when we embrace it, when we move towards it. We can transform suffering into understanding and wisdom, compassion, kindness, resiliency, the ability to deal with adversity and not be overwhelmed by it. So suffering can be a great teacher in that way. But using suffering in a way that benefits us, not to cause us more problems. So in meditation and in living an ethical life, we're actually learning to utilize suffering or prepare us to take advantage of suffering, that there is suffering, and being very attentive, sincere, loving, and gentle, we can embrace suffering, and it can become the compost bin of our lives. You know, all that filthy stuff, even human waste and discarded food, rotting food, etc., can make the most amazing compost for fruit trees. In the same way, our difficulties, our sufferings, our traumas, they can become this nurturing field of compassion, of resiliency, of power to love ourselves and to love other people. So in that way, we wouldn't really want to get rid of suffering. If we didn't have suffering, we wouldn't have happiness. We wouldn't have all these amazing people who have transcended suffering and transformed suffering into understanding and compassion. So we can be very grateful for suffering. Zen Vegan, you want to go ahead and hop on to Mike to ask your next question?
Yes. So my question this time was, are you a vegan or vegetarian yourself? If not, why not? Because I have discussed this topic with other Buddhists, and most have said that they're not because they want to accept any donations of food or alms, which could include meat. So would you personally avoid eating animal products and meat because of the suffering it causes to animals? And if Buddhism is about eliminating suffering, should a vegan diet be recommended?
Sure. A vegan diet should be recommended if it's possible to do in that economic situation, in that community. Then it should certainly be recommended, and I endorse that. And veganism is the most ethical, moral way to eat. That's what people should do. If they're Buddhist, they should be vegan. They should be vegetarian. There's no getting around that. Traditionally, Buddhist monks are freegan. So they are receiving discarded food, basically, or offered food without preference. So technically, they would be freegan. They would be vegan, traditionally. Like the Buddha consumed meat, but he was a vegan because he received food without any expression of preference. So the same as, you could say, similar to going through the garbage and eating food there. And that is, I believe that is classified as a form of veganism, a legitimate form of veganism. So traditionally, monks would be freegan. Now, in modern times, I'm not vegan, I'm not vegetarian. And that's, that's not ideal, but that's my situation. And maybe because of laziness, but also nutritional need and limited access to high quality vegetarian food, etc. And it's for health out here, it's very easy to get sick. And when choosing between a couple of vegetables and some kind of offered meat product, I would choose, one that would maybe be a little bit more nutritious. But it's a complicated subject. What I would say is that right now I'm not vegetarian or vegan, but if I lived in a certain temple that was vegetarian, many temples are vegetarian, then I would certainly be vegetarian. And most of the time I'm freegan. Most of the time I'm eating discarded food or food offered without any expression of preference, most of the time. But like I have cream in my coffee. So there's maybe some cognitive dissonance there in the effect that that has in the world. But it's certainly best to be vegan and to have a vegan diet because it's what causes the least suffering to animals, to other members of the community, which animals are. Thank you for that question, Zen Vegan. Okay, are there any other questions? All right. So I want to thank everyone so much for joining for this live group meditation and Dharma sharing, question and answer. Hope that you got some benefit from this event, and I will be continuing to host and facilitate these kinds of live group meditations and discussions, and I've got different ideas for what we'll do moving forward. But I'm really happy I was able to do this tonight, or maybe it's morning for you, and look forward to seeing you all again sometime. Thank you so much for stopping by, and be happy. And I guess I could close with a little bit of chanting. I offer some chanting to finish for those who want to listen. Buddhist chanting. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Thanks for joining, everyone. Take care.